Good morning and welcome to Bible Truth for Kids. When you watch a TV show, what kind of a show do you like to watch? Do you like to watch one that's funny, or one that gives you butterflies in your stomach, or one that's exciting? You know, last week we had a show. It was a showdown. It was up on Mount Carmel between Elijah and the prophets of Baal. They each had an altar, and the challenge was, whichever God answers by fire, that's the one true God. Well, it wasn't Baal that answered. It was God, because he is the one true God, and he sent fire from heaven, and he burnt up everything that was on the altar. Now, you would think that after like a mountaintop experience like that, where God showed his tremendous power, that Elijah would never have his confidence shaken again. You know, but he did. Because Elijah was a person like you and I. He wasn't a superhero. He felt the same things that you and I feel. You know, sometimes when you've had a really fun party, or you've gone somewhere where there's a really fun event, and it's been really exciting, and you know, there's been lots going on. There's been food, and there's been fun, and there's been games, and then it's over, and you know, everyone's gone home, and you're by yourself. And it isn't any fun anymore. Nothing's happening. You know, you kind of feel like this sometimes. Just like somebody let the air out of your balloon. You feel a little bit glum. You might even feel a little bit grumpy. You know, that's the way that Elijah was feeling when he got a message. Somebody was not up on Mount Carmel that day of the showdown when everything exciting was happening. The person who was not there was Jezebel. I mean, King Ahab was there, but Jezebel wasn't. And you know, the prophets of Baal were her beloved prophets. They were very privileged. In fact, Jezebel fed them with food from her own palace. She loved them. But she didn't know what had happened up there on Mount Carmel. So when Ahab got back to Jezreel, he told her everything that happened. And he told her how Elijah had put all 450 prophets of Baal to death with the sword. Well, I'm sure there was a lot of murderous shrieking going around when Jezebel found that out. She was enraged. In fact, in her heart, she hated Elijah. And so she sent a messenger to him, and this was the message. You're a dead man. By this time tomorrow, we'll be burying you in the ground. And when Elijah heard that, because he was alone and because he was discouraged, he was filled with fear, and he ran for his life. I mean, he didn't just run to the next town. I want to show you where he ran from. He's up here in Jezreel, and he ran. He took off, and he went all the way down here to Beersheba. You know, that's even in the kingdom of Judah. Look how far it is. You know, it's 173 kilometers. He was afraid that Jezebel would never find him down there. Now, when he got to Beersheba, he took another day's journey out into the wilderness. And the wilderness is like a desert. It's hot and it's dry. But you know, the desert has some interesting things in it. One of the things it has is a broom tree. Now, we don't have broom trees. But can you see how beautiful it is? It's like an umbrella. It provides so much shade. And he saw that broom tree, and he went under the broom tree, and he lay down. And as he lay down, he prayed. And he said, Lord, I want to quit. I'm tired of doing this. And I'm of no use to anybody anymore. I'm not even of use to you. And then he slept. But you know, he hadn't been asleep for all that long when an angel touched him, and he woke up, just like your mom touches you sometimes. And he woke up, and he saw a cake of bread on some hot stones and a jug of water. And the angel said, eat. And so he did. And then he slept again. But it wasn't very long before the angel woke him a second time. And he woke up a second time. And there was another cake of bread, another jar of water. And the angel said, eat, because you have a journey ahead of you, and it's going to be a long one. You know, God wasn't done with Elijah yet. And after eating like that and sleeping, Elijah felt so much better. You know, sometimes that's all we need too. Sometimes when we're discouraged and by ourselves, we just need to have a sleep and have some food. Because sometimes that's why your mom says to you, you need to have a rest. We feel so much better after that. And God was not finished with Elijah. He said, I want you to go to Mount Horeb. Now from Beersheba, Mount Horeb, where's Beersheba here? Right here. It is way down here. It's actually off the map. It's 400 kilometers from up here in Beersheba. So that's a long ways. And there are no cars, trains, or buses. Elijah's going to have to walk. And so he walked for 40 days and 40 nights until he got to Mount Horeb. Now, many of these mountains, they always have caves in them. There aren't any hotels around. And Elijah saw that there was a cave up here in Mount Horeb. And so he went up there to spend the night. And the Spirit of the Lord said to Elijah, Elijah, what are you doing here? Well, Elijah said, well, I've been very zealous for you. I have stood up for what is right. But you know, the people, they just keep breaking your laws. And they just keep smashing your altars. I am the only one left. And now they're trying to kill me. Well, the Spirit of the Lord said, Elijah, I want you to stand on the mountain because the presence of the Lord is going to come by. And so Elijah went out to stand in front of his cave. This cave is right here. And the Lord sent a powerful, fierce wind. It blew right across the mountain. In fact, it was so strong, it broke the mountain into pieces. That must have been really frightening. But you know, the Lord wasn't in the wind. After the wind came an earthquake. Is this where Elijah's cave is? Right here. Do you imagine how frightening that would be to be in that cave and it's shaking and all the rocks are coming down? Frightening. But you know, the Lord wasn't in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a roaring fire right across the mountain. There's his cave right there. But you know, the Lord wasn't in the fire. But after the fire, there came a gentle whisper. And Elijah knew it was the Lord. And he put his cloak over his head and he went out to stand right on the edge. Because you know, the Lord speaks to us in a quiet voice. He spoke to Elijah in a quiet voice. You know, that's the same way that God speaks to us today. He speaks to us in a quiet voice. I'm going to show you a picture here. And this is my desk at home. Now, I get up very early in the morning and I like to pray and I like to read my Bible right here. And it's lovely. But you know, do you see how close it is to the kitchen? This is the kitchen counter here. Now, when my husband gets up in the morning and he starts emptying the dishwasher, then the dishes are all clattering around, and then he's going to the cupboard and he's looking for breakfast, and then he starts talking to me, and I can't concentrate anymore. I can't keep praying, and I can't keep listening to God's word because I can't hear anymore. So we have to be somewhere quiet if we want to hear God's voice. It could be like when you're walking somewhere, when you're sitting somewhere, even when you're lying down in bed. Just somewhere quiet so we can talk to God and listen to him, because God speaks to us in a quiet voice. Now God said to Elijah, I've got more work for you to do. You're not done yet. And Elijah said, well, I want to quit. He said, I've been zealous for you, but people are breaking your laws, and they're smashing your altars, and I'm the only one left, and they're trying to kill me. But the Lord said, no, Elijah, there are 7,000 people left in Israel that have not bowed their knee to Baal or kissed him. You're not alone. I have people everywhere. Now he said, get up. I want you to go back the same way you came. Now he says, I want you to go back up here, all the way up to Damascus, which is in a place called Aram. He said, that's about 1,000 kilometers. He said, I want you to go up there and anoint a new king. Then I want you to come back to Israel and anoint another king. And he says, I want you to anoint Elisha. He is going to be the prophet who is going to come after you. So Elijah had work to do, and he set out to do it. Now, when he came across Elisha was plowing his field with 12 oxen. You know, they don't have any tractors back then, so they had to plow the land with the strongest animals they had, which were oxen. Now, people knew that a prophet always wore a mantle, like a cloak. Excuse me. And so Elijah had a cloak, a mantle. That's how people knew that he was a prophet. And as he walked by Elisha, he threw his mantle over Elisha. And Elisha knew right away what that meant. He was to be the prophet after Elijah. And so he asked permission from Elijah to go home and say goodbye to his family, because he knew he wouldn't be back. And then he took his 12 oxen and he killed them. And he burnt up all of his plowing equipment in order to cook the meat of the oxen, and he gave the meat to all the people. And then he left to follow after Elijah. He was going to be his assistant. So today we have seen that God provides for us what we need. He understands how we feel. He wants us to tell him how we feel. He cares about us. He will give us what we need. That's why he sent the angel to Elijah with food and water. And he also showed Elijah and tells us too that he speaks to us in a quiet voice. And so if we want to hear him, we need to listen in a quiet place. All right, next week we are going to see King Ahab ignoring God's warning, and he's going to disguise himself, and he is going to go out into battle. So we'll see what happens to Ahab next week. See you then.